Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I will be talking about popular books I will never read. I recently did a video where I talked about book series that I won't finish, and it kind of got me inspired to think about books that I will never read and authors I don't ever want to read and authors that I've given up on and stuff, which I will have other videos like that coming soon. But I thought it would be really fun to talk about some popular books that I have no interest in ever reading. Obviously, this is just all of my opinions, no hate to people who love these books or to the authors, obviously. I have nothing against these books or anything like that. It's just I don't want to read them, and I've also heard things about them that doesn't make me want to pick them up either. And some of them have specific tropes and stuff that I don't like, so I just know I'm probably not going to end up liking any of these. I have around 11 books to talk about, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started. The first book I will never read is Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. This book is currently everywhere. It is on book Twitter, Bookstagram, Book Talk, BookTube. It is everywhere. I also want to say, when it comes to popular books, there is something that makes it really hard for me to want to read them. Like, I feel like if a book is super, super popular, I don't want to read it. And I don't know why. This is kind of the case with this book, but also I have read some reviews that make me not want to read this book. I've heard that it's kind of a little bit of a toxic, dramatic, over the top book, which I usually love, but I feel like as I get older, it's not something I'm interested in reading that much anymore. There's a very specific reason why I don't want to read this book, but I don't want to say why because it's kind of a spoiler for this book. But it has kind of a trope or like a plot that I don't really enjoy. It has to do with something that the male character does that I'm just not a fan of in romance novels. It just doesn't really seem like my thing, so I don't want to waste my time reading it. The next one I feel like I've talked about a lot, how I will never read it, but that is Credence by Penelope Douglas. This has a plot that I do not like, so I don't want to read it for that reason. I feel like I don't really enjoy Penelope Douglas that much anymore. I really loved their Bully series. That was like my favorite thing ever, but from their newer releases, I'm just not really into what they're currently writing. I have read some reviews that do make me think that there would be some elements of this book that I would like, but I think I can't really get past the main plot of this book and like the main trope of it. I think that's what really turns me off from this book, so I just will never read this, and this is like the one consistent book that I talk about that I will never ever read. Then we have Stay With Me by Nicole Fiorina. I actually tried reading this a couple of months ago, back in February, I think. I talked about it in my February reading plans video. I think I maybe got to like 20 or 30 pages into it and I had to stop. I found it very triggering and I just was not into it. The main premise of this book is like about this female character who has like no emotions and she doesn't feel anything, and then she meets this guy who is very emotional and he feels everything. I find it really hard to read about books that are very heavy on mental health, and I find anything to do with mental institutions and like mental health facilities very, very triggering. I just really can't read about that or deal with any of that. It is very triggering for me. I feel like they're often romanticized when it comes to like dark romances and stuff, and I get it, it's like a dark romance, but I don't like the way that specific authors or like the romance community often deals with like mental health facilities and institutions and stuff. I don't like how they're often romanticized, and it's not to say that this book does that, because I obviously didn't read enough of it to know that, but the vibe that I was getting was that it would be romanticized and like their mental health issues would be romanticized, which is just something I don't want to read about. This is obviously not to do with like an actual like mental health facility. It's like a school for delinquents and stuff, but mental health is obviously a huge part of this book. Yeah, I just don't want to read anything about that. I find it very triggering and it makes me super, super anxious. So I've decided I don't want to read this book anymore, which sucks because I've heard really good things about it. But again, I don't really want to put myself in that kind of position where it could really affect my mental health and, you know, all of that. So unfortunately, this will be a book I will never read. Next is Denna Vipers by K.A. Knight. Even though this book is pretty popular, I still hadn't really heard like a lot of things about it. And I guess it only has a 3.5 on Goodreads, which is pretty low. And it has a lot of ratings and a lot of reviews. I am not into reverse harem romances. I don't like them. This is mainly what that's about. So I just will not read this. You know, there's just like that one trope that you cannot read for the life of you. That is what reverse harem is for me. I can't stand it. So I am going to have to pass on this one as well. But let me know if you've read this and what you think about it, because I'm surprised it only has a 3.5 on Goodreads. The next book isn't super popular, but it's part of a very popular series, and that is The Legacy by Elle Kennedy. This is technically the 5th book in the Off-Campus series. I loved the first 4 books in the Off-Campus series. I read them years ago when they came out, and I absolutely loved them. However, I have no interest in reading this 5th book. From what I've heard, the characters are just very out of character. They're not like their normal selves from the initial Off-Campus series. I look at this book as kind of like a money grab. TikTok was really all about the Off-Campus series at the beginning of the pandemic, and I feel like Elle Kennedy just wrote this book to get some money from all of those TikTok readers. Personally, when I want to read a epilogue type of novella that, you know, is a little quick short story about all of the couples, I personally just want to read about them being super happy. I don't need drama or like some unnecessary plot to stir something up to make a story. And I'm kind of over Elle Kennedy in general. She is an author that I've kind of given up on, so I have no interest in ever reading The Legacy. I have no interest in reading the Dark Olympus series by Katie Roberts. I don't know why, but I have no interest in reading the series. I actually read The Marriage Contract by her years and years and years ago. I guess I gave it 4 stars, but I don't really remember it. I never continued the series. I don't know why I'm not interested in reading anything by Katie Roberts. I feel like, again, she's a very popular author. Honestly, in general, I just don't think I'm ever going to pick up anything by Katie Roberts. I just don't really think that she's an author for me. I kind of just want to focus on other authors and other books. I don't want to waste my time reading something that I'm not going to love or that I know I'm not going to be into. So I guess in general, I just have no interest in reading anything by Katie Roberts. I have no interest in reading Games We Play by Denna Vipers. I've never really looked at this author's name, to be honest. This book is kind of a novella. It's only 90 pages, but I saw this everywhere, I think last year when it came out, and everybody was reading it and loving it. It has to do with a video game and a gamer, I think, but I'm just not interested in reading it. Again, I feel like because it's so popular and well loved, I just feel like I'm going to have the opposite feeling. I don't have any interest in ever reading the Ravenhood series by Kate Stewart. The first book is Flock. I honestly know nothing about this book other than I've heard it's very emotional. I have heard that there might be like a love triangle, or it might be reverse harem or polyamorous. I don't really know, but because it might be reverse harem, I'm just not interested in reading this. I just honestly don't think I'm going to like this, so I'd rather not waste my time, even though I know it's a very well-loved book. The last 2 are about the same author, so I have Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. I've actually heard really, really good things about this book, and I've heard that this is one of Colleen's better books, and I've heard that she does a really good job with the storytelling and how it's not as problematic as her other books. But I am kind of over Colleen Hoover. I haven't read her books in a very, very long time. I think the last book I read by her was It Ends With Us, and I read that when it came out. I don't hate Colleen Hoover, but I also don't love her. I feel like I'm very neutral on her. I understand why people hate her, and I understand why people love her. Personally, my favorite book by her is Ugly Love or It Ends With Us, but I feel very shamed in saying that those are my favorite by Colleen Hoover because I know a lot of people, you know, talk shit about those books, but I'm not gonna lie and say that I haven't enjoyed her books in the past because I have. I mean, now that I'm reading the summary, because I don't think I actually ever read the summary of this book, but I knew it was about a single mom. It kind of sounds good. So maybe I'm second guessing this one. Maybe I should try to read this. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Should I read it? Should I not? The other book I plan on never reading is Verity by Colleen Hoover. This one I actually know for sure I'm never going to read. Again, I've also heard really weird things about this book, and it doesn't really make me want to pick it up, even though I've heard it's very addicting and a very interesting read. There are just so many other books that I would rather read, and like I said, I'm kind of over Colleen Hoover. I've always been unsure if I actually like her books or if I felt like I was supposed to like her books back in the day. I feel like I don't know if I should not like her now. Like, I don't really know how I feel about Colleen Hoover. Maybe I do need to read her current books to see if I actually like her stuff or if I just feel the pressure from other people. I don't know. But I'm pretty dead set that I won't read Verity. Reminders of Him, I might actually read. Who knows? So those were all 11 books that I will never read. Let me know if you have read any of these books and what you think about them, or let me know what books you plan on never reading. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, follow me on all my other social media, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.